Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Takeaway. I'm really excited for our guest today, Matthew McConaughey. You know him as an Oscar and Golden Globe award-winning actor. He is a philanthropist, a producer, and director, but he's also someone who has channeled his life experiences, his insights, and lessons learned into a best-selling memoir, Greenlights, which is part autobiography, and what I love also is that part guide to living. So Matthew, today I want to talk about a couple of the things that really stood out to me in your book and your career and the work that you're doing now. The first is around this concept of setting intentions and engineering opportunities in your own life and career, your advice around that as well. But also later on in the conversation, how you think about leveraging your platform and your voice to be a force for change during this defining time. So thanks so much for joining us.
Moira, good to see you. I'm looking forward to talking about it, everything.
So, as I said earlier, what stood out to me in reading your book and learning more about your career was this through line of how intentional your decision-making has seemed to be in so many steps of your career and your life, and how you've engineered opportunities in your own life. You know, when dealing with challenges in life, you described that sometimes it's about persisting through and enduring, and other times it's about pivoting. I would love for you to talk about in the context of a story in your book about your career when you decided to take a pause from Hollywood and unbranding, as you called it, and what others can learn from that and take away in terms of understanding what a defining moment is, how to take advantage of it, and actually how do you take the steps to navigate those critical junctures?
Yeah, you know, it seems to be that's if we know the answer to that question, and what do we do at that juncture? When do we persist? When do we pivot? How often do we set a goal and say, I'm going to go get it, and we go reach it? How often do we need to go, no, I need to pause here like a spider and let my food get caught in my web. I need to bring it to me. You know, I talk about the art of the yellow light. That's the art of living, because that's where our choice is. The red light says stop, the green light says go, but the yellow light's where we have our choice. Do we slow down because we need a pause, or do we put the pedal to the metal and blow through it? I've had many of those in my life. I've engineered many things and gotten what I wanted by choices I deliberately and intentionally made with that goal in mind, even if it was years away, and got it. I've been intentional though in the times when I've needed to say, hey, I don't know what it is I need to find. I just need to go put myself in a place to where I think I can find it. So just the proverbial, you know, what's the hardest part about going to the gym? Putting on our shoes. We don't know what we're going to, or going off on a trip on our own. Just pack the backpack, get the hell out of town, go get some solitude. I don't know what I'm going to find, but I'm going to put myself in a place to find it. So I've found rewards and successes through chasing what I wanted and just putting myself in a position to let it come to me. That's the rhythm that is the art of living, I think, for our choices all the time. Both are intentional. One just knows what is very clear what you're after. The other one is just saying, I know I need a change. I know I'm open for learning something. I'm going to put myself in a position to receive it, even though I don't know exactly what it is. I've out-hustled to get things in my career. I've also made, as you brought up, great sacrifices where I said, I'm actually stepping away from Hollywood. I'm going to take a one-way ticket into limbo and not work for I don't know how long, which turned out to be 2 years. Turned out to be a great choice that I endured with the 2 years being away from Hollywood, because that sacrifice gave me anonymity. And what I realized after is it gave me an unbranding phase, for which after 2 years of being out of Hollywood, it was like, where's McConaughey? My brand was forgotten. So now I was a new and good idea for the movies I wanted to do. And when they came my way, I then rebranded and attacked them. And that's been the drama run that I've been on for the last 15 years. You know, that seems to be the as I said, the art of living. When do we point it out, set the goal, get it? And when do we go, I'm not sure, I'm taking a sabbatical here, I'm stepping out, but I think I'm going to put myself in a position to hear what's right for me.
You know, when you talk about that, I think it requires some clarity or at least some focus around what it is you want, who it is you are, and this bias for action, right? And taking, I think life is full of uncertainty and curveballs, but at least in terms of more control around where you're going to harness your energy. Can you talk about how you actually do that in practice, especially for people who don't necessarily know what their goals are or don't know the type of direction they want to go into?
Yeah, I mean, I would say this. I'm a big fan of the word selfish. I'm into redefining this. My friends and mentors say you're pushing a big rock up a very steep hill, but I am a very big fan of the right terminology, the right definition of selfish. And I think that's what we have to be. And that does not mean, no, we don't help out our neighbor or help out someone, but that does mean it's very personal, each one of our choices. And we got to ask ourselves, what do I want? Now, I talk about this in the book, knowing what we want, knowing what our own goals are, to have that clarity, damn it, that's hard. So at the very least, let's start with, if we're in that place of confusion, we've got going, I've got all the drive, I've got all the can do, but what's my want to? What is it? I don't know what it is. Start eliminating the crap that's not what we want. Start getting rid of the friends, the places, the choices, the things on our proverbial desk Monday morning that we go, this is my least favorite thing to work at. It's the one I'm not the best at. It's the one that's giving me less ROI than anything else on my desk. And that goes with work, that goes with relationships, that goes with who we're hanging out with, where we're going, even our own thought processes. Get rid of the stuff that doesn't feed us back, that doesn't give us our own personal ROI. Now look, can we all do exactly only what we love to do? Hell no. Unemployment would be through the roof if that was the rule. But can we learn to enjoy what we're good at? Usually, you get good at something, you work hard at something, you get good at it, you start to enjoy it because you're good at it. But I try to get selfish, and again, if I don't know what it is I want to do, I try to eliminate the things that I go, look how much time this taken me. Look how little I enjoy doing that. I'm not even that good at it. Where's my false sense of thinking I need to take care of that? So I'm going to get rid of that. And also putting out, we get 24 campfires going. And all of a sudden we don't have Valhalla anywhere. It's like, get rid of some of the campfires so you can have fewer fires and larger flames. That's been a real good practice, I know, for me, that I think everyone, can go, call it spring cleaning, call it the beginning of the year, call it Q1, call it whatever you have. But there's times we have to look at our proverbial desk in life and go, there's some things I need to discard here or move on or ladle into another category that I am working on, but get less small fires and more larger flames.
I think that's really good advice because it's as we just talked about, it's really hard to sometimes know what you want to do, but to reverse engineer the process in terms of at least putting things, moving forward, taking action to try and figure it out, even when you don't know the direction you want to take. When I'm reading your book, so much of what you talk about, again, is navigating this journey, continuing to move forward. And you said in your book, it's a book about how to catch more yeses in a world of no's, how to recognize when a no might be a yes, and trying to catch more green lights. Can you talk us through this concept of the green light and how you've explained that there are opportunities to better identify and improve upon your chances of actually meeting those moments?
Yes. So green lights, I use the traffic light as, a metaphor for navigating this road of life that we're all on. We got red, yellows, and greens. We love greens. They say, go, please, more. Carry on. We don't like the reds and yellows. They slow us down. They stop us. They interject. They interrogate. They argue with us. They're a jackknife. They're death, crisis, hardship. We don't like them. But usually we find out we needed them for some reason. We needed the pause at the yellow light to introspectively look back and wonder why we keep running into the same problem in our life, why we keep repeating the same problem. We need the red lights. The reds and yellows have great lessons in them. It's just, when do we notice them? Sometimes we notice them when we're in them. We're having a tough time, and we immediately go, I see the gem here. I see the reason. Sometimes we don't notice it till tomorrow, next week, next month. I don't think sometimes we're going to notice it on our deathbed. I would argue that I don't think we're going to notice the lessons we're supposed to learn in some of our hardships until our great-great-grandchildren realize them generations from now. But I do believe that when we realize those lessons, or those lessons are realized, well, that's when in the rearview mirror all of those red and yellows turn green. And that's why there's a symbol of the traffic light with 3 actual green lights on it. We can engineer them, as we talked about earlier, through our responsibility, through our choices. Sometimes they just fall in our lap. It's a lot of the book is about how quickly do we see the red and the yellow and go, this is a green light. Not out of foolish optimism, not out of my glass, I wanted a full glass, but hey, it's half full. Not a Hallmark card optimism, but a real hardcore sort of, hey, this is inevitable, what I'm dealing with. I cannot do anything about it, as Confucius would say. What do we worry about? What we can do something about. If we're in a position that's inevitable and it's a hardship and it sucks and we're like, okay, I have to do this. Well, I gotta go to work. I gotta go home after work, and I gotta put in the work to get ready for tomorrow. Whatever. Just weigh the choice. Well, is not doing this an option? No, it's not an option. Okay, then I'm gonna do it. Take a breath and go, okay. Well, I'm gonna find a way to dance through this. I'd rather be doing something else, but I'm gonna find a way to do this with pleasure. I'm going to find a way to go, I'm going to break a sweat now because tomorrow morning when I'm prepared for the meeting, I'll have less anxiety. I'll have less stress. I'll be prepared. Delayed gratification is a big part of it. So it's also about embracing and bringing resistance to us. Resistance is yellow lights, red lights. Seek the resistance. Lean into the blind spots where we're uncomfortable. Trusting that we're buying ourselves a green light tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, at the end of our life. Work, relationships, fatherhood, motherhood. Talk about how much do we seek? You've got children. How much as parents, how much easier is it to just lay green lights out for the kids all the time? But we wouldn't be good at being great parents. We have to seek resistance. To say no and follow through on no, which is a yellow or a red light for our children, is a hell of a lot more work than just saying, yes, go. But it's harder work for delayed gratification because hopefully we'll have shepherded better children into the world, right? Same thing with life and work and any relationship. We got to seek certain resistance. I don't think one of the challenges I think now for all of us is the world. And I know a lot of places in America, we have a certain sense of entitlement that I don't think we appreciate the value of sacrifice enough. And it's partially that idea of delayed gratification. I don't think we appreciate the understanding of setting goals and having long-term goals, that it's not about the immediate gratification. Trust. We don't trust enough. We don't believe enough in ourselves and others, in a God if you're faithful, and in our transcendent selves. If we could trust and believe in that more, we would make longer term goals and say, no, I believe my reward's coming later.
I love that idea, because if you know eventually there will be a green light, it helps you hang on and keep moving forward. Even if you don't know ultimately what that destination will be, right. If you know it will pay off in some shape or form, it can at least give you the confidence or the courage to stay on that journey. If this, I love this idea of the yellow light being this discomfort, and that all of us need to run more toward yellow lights.
I think so.
These moments of discomfort, what right now takes you out of your comfort zone? How have you learned to run toward the yellow lights? And can you give me one or two examples?
Sure. Well, for instance, I've been very busy working for the last year and a half. In my work, for me, my mind is 24/7, 7 days a week. I can enjoy the family on the weekend, and we've taken small vacations, but I'm up 3 times a night writing down something that has turned me on, that is maybe an applicable science or a philosophy or something that I saw. So right now, actually, and I was writing about this last night, I'm on a vacation with my family. Monday morning came yesterday, and I went, oh, it's Monday. I got to work. And I was like, no, this is your Saturday. You earned this Saturday. Do not have a goal today of work you need to do. Hey, walk around, have them sleep in. That's been my yellow light here for the last week. I've been trying to really push myself to go, you don't have to accomplish anything today. Give yourself a week at least of not feeling like you got to accomplish something to feel significant. We do that. We love work. Thank goodness we have so many of us that have a job and that we love in our career. We love it. That's so awesome to have that. I wouldn't trade it. But we also have to have the privilege of having to go, I got to know when to turn it off. I got to know when to let my mind run and not just be seeking an answer of accomplishment all the time and take pause. I got to talk about retrospection. I need to sit back a little bit. That's a yellow light that I'm learning. I'm trying to learn again right now because a year and a half I've been charging. What's another? Trusting what I'm going to do with my future right now. I'm making some changes in my life of what I'm going to be, what I'm going to do later, what's my category, what's my embassy later on. Trusting that that is a balance of what we talked about at the beginning of this conversation. Calling it out, seeking it, chasing it. But it's also a balance of no. Sit back and take care of what's most important to you, McConaughey, and you're going to draw that. It's going to call you. It's going to pull you. So it's a balance of those two. Those are some yellow lights that I'm trying to get more comfortable in right now, without getting complacent, because that's the fear when we put ourselves in a position to go, take a pause. We're a charge first. Let's go out hustle the next person society, and thank goodness we are, because I think if anything we're being harmed by the other first, that we don't hustle enough or have a good enough work ethic as people. But to trust that, and that we're not getting complacent, to trust that no, I didn't have to achieve right now. I don't have to enter right now. Again, we go back to that trust and delayed gratification. It's a tough one, but to trust that right now is like a yellow light that I'm dealing with.
Sometimes I'm such a firm believer. Sometimes you have to slow down to speed up, this idea of attention and taking a pause. It's crazy that it still feels so counterintuitive to some of us. But I think that's such great insight in terms of how it really can sort of ultimately fuel your growth and help you at least identify the paths that you want to pursue. Before we talk a little bit about this next chapter of your career, everyone, when we are navigating these journeys, there's peaks, there's valleys. Failure is an inevitable part of the process, even though we know it's an invaluable lesson in terms of shaping who we are. But you're doing so much of this in the public light. So there is a very different dimension than a lot of us are facing. How much attention do you pay to the critics? And are there still punches that are hard to deflect? Because while resiliency is about taking punches every day and not falling down, I would imagine that there's certain ones that still feel like blows.
Sure. Hey, good review. I don't care. I've been doing it for 51 years. I've been making movies for 30 years. Done 54 movies or 54 pieces of art that I've put out. A good review feels better than a bad one. You damn right it does.
You read reviews. You read your.
Well, I have and I haven't. I do. I'm for. I tell you what. I went away about 8 years ago, and I had my publicist gather every bad review of anything I'd ever done, and it was a thick book. And I took it away for a weekend, and I read every one. Started off, it was hard to do because I was, and I noticed what was good about it is I ended up laughing a lot about it, because a lot of the reviews I could tell, this person didn't like me anyway. They wrote this review. This review was written before they saw the movie or my performance. So I could tell by the snark of the opening line, this person just had it in for me. This is not a real review. Other ones, I got constructive criticism. I was like, she's got a point. That was cool. Now, look, I'm pretty much more my own referee, and I'm a harder referee on myself than anybody else. I'm a tougher judge on myself than anyone else. And I think I hope, if my ego is clear, that I'm a better judge of when I'm succeeding as well, and what I call excellence for myself, or what I deem as excellent. Someone else's opinion on that, my default right now is if I'm very confident, I feel like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. Now I got to take it easy on that and go, well, maybe they do, because maybe it was clear to me, but maybe we do this all the time. We give the Cliff Notes version to someone, and we're like, well, don't you understand? And they're like, well, no, I haven't been there for the 3 weeks leading up to this choice you're making, and you're just telling me the quick reason. So sometimes it doesn't translate when I think I've done it very clearly and in an excellent fashion. But for the most part, I'm like, oh, well, I either need to rearrange it so they can understand it, or maybe it's just not for them. That's how I am when I'm very confident. And I think I'm clear when I do that. Other times, I've got to catch up where I'm like, you know what, it's not clear. It may be clear to me, but I'm not translating it. I'm not communicating it, whether it's a piece of art, whether it's a conversation, whether it's trying to get what I want in a negotiation. Maybe maybe it's clear in my head, but I'm not communicating it where the person goes, oh, I see it. So that's my measures. My family, my wife, who I am is clear, and who I want to be is clear to me. I've been doing this long enough where outside critics can say something about me, and I can tell when it's the snark, or it's just the sign of the social acceptance of the day, that's just what you do. We do have a tendency, people, and I would say even America more so, want to bring down someone who succeeds. It's just in our nature. It's why highways that are 70 miles an hour slow down to 10 miles an hour when we're rubbernecking, because there's a wreck on the other side of the road. No reason to slow down. We just want to see the problem, the disease, the failure, more than we want to see the success or the health or the victory. And that's just cyclical, and I think it's just human nature. I wish it wasn't that way. I don't believe I work in that way. I try to teach the kids this as well. Like, really appreciate someone else's success. I believe there's enough blue ribbons to go around. There's different races we're all running. Do I have human jealousy and insecurity? Sometimes, damn right I do. But I know when I'm seeing the world clearly and objectively, I'm happy for someone else's success, and I would wish that they were for me too. But I know that's just not the way life works. So going to the critics, whether they're good or they're bad, I would just say this. I think it comes back, the place where we want to get is to where we're self-determining managers of ourselves. We're the minister of our own culture. We flick our own trigger. We flick our own switch, and we ain't asking permission. And what you say about me, yay or nay, however you feel, I hope you're honest, but I wasn't checking in with you anyway. I'm going my own way. That's when it's like, yes, I'm in the honey hole. I love being in that place. Am I always there? No. But when I have that clarity, we don't care what the critics
and usually so often the critics are the ones on the sidelines, right? They're not in the game.
And they're on the sidelines for a reason. That's the other thing we have to remember with any kind of perceived failure. Those people yelling are on the sidelines for a reason. The people who come up, and this is one of our fears. What do we fear about taking risk and failing? Embarrassment, catcalls from the sidelines. It's never as bad as we think it was going to be. And the people who are really gamers and really ballers come over and help us up and go, me too. Come on, let's get back at it. The ballers are in the game. And they go, you damn right. I've gotten success. I've gotten rewards by being the one who fell down and got up more times and got the job in front of the person who succeeded the first time, because the person making the decision said, who's the guy who keeps falling down and getting back up? It's happened. I can count successes I've had like that.
One thing that really strikes me when you're looking at this next phase of your career again is this theme of there's a lot of people on the sidelines right now in this country, a very, very divisive landscape, who have a lot of opinions, very, very contentious, but not necessarily a lot of doing to be able to drive the change that I think all of us feel like is so important. As the world enters this post-pandemic reality, you've talked a lot about how we need to use this time to reevaluate, that this is a red light moment, but this also could be a turning point for us. Currently, you've been talking about potentially setting your sights on a very different kind of role that could take you to the governor's mansion in the future with a potential bid to run for a political office. I'd be curious, what were the signs or the green lights that led you to this moment or led you to this pivot? And I ask this because I talk to a lot of people who have run for political office, and obviously there needs to be the condition in the world where they feel like they can be a force of change, right? There has to be a context for them to that pull to really get unlocked. But oftentimes there's also a moment where, or a person where they feel like that type of route is one that's possible or one that they finally see themselves in?
It's a good question because I'd always done this, and I think this is a great exercise for all of us to do. Imagine if you're president of the world. What would you do? We're not going to be president of the world, but it's a great exercise to gain awareness of what the hell you give a damn about, what you don't know about, what you do know about, what you really care about, what maybe you need to learn about. It's a great exercise. I've never been into politics per se, but as we know, everything gets politicized. We talk about the pandemic. We can go on. That may be a whole nother episode we could talk about. Oh my gosh. I'm settling more into I'm more of a statesman probably than a politician. So then I go, well, maybe that's not really politics. And I go, well, maybe it should be. You know, because I do believe, and I think many of us can agree on some level, that politics needs repurposing, that politicians need to reclaim what it is they do, what their purpose is. The business of politics has lost its direction, or we're in a place right now where its compass is definitely not as clear as it should be. We have a society in America that is, we don't really have a national society. It's almost like we've taken our individualism at this point and run to our bunker and said, no, we're not a collective anything. I'm watching out for me, you watch out for you. Now that would be the definition I would not be a proponent of selfish I was talking about earlier. I believe there is a definition of selfish, that is what is personal and best for us is also best for the most amount of people. So in the last few years, I would say this, I'm happy for myself that I've got the confidence to look a job like running for governor or politics, look it in the eye and actually consider it, and not be so impressed with the idea that I'm like, oh, wow, because I've had people come to me, oh, you should. And so I've gotten past the level where I'm like, wow, really? Me? Because now I'm involved, I'm looking it in the eye. So I can weigh, I'm now in a position of trying to actually weigh it. I'm doing my best to weigh it. I'm going, is that really my embassy? Is that where I can be most useful, of the most service, to the most amount of people, to myself, to my family as well? Because I do believe it's got to be absolutely personal. And if it ain't personal, don't put the skin in the game, because this is going to be a tough game and it's a necessary game. Do I want to get in into that arena? Is that my category? Is that, like I said, where I am most useful? Like I said, I'm more of a statesman. I believe I've got a talent for storytelling. You know, I've heard a friend of mine says storytellers are the great legislators. You know, I've got to go be somewhat of an artist in it to see the rhythms of what it is that I do, because I know there's thousands of daily choices and compartmentalization and administrative choices that have to come with the job, and you better be damn good at that job to take that position. At the same time, it's got to be more than just running in circles, which right now I feel like politics is we're just chasing the tail a little bit right now. It has lost its way, and it's going to revolutionary little circles, and it's not evolving. And we've learned over this last year and a half, we've gained great distrust, a lot of distrust in our politicians, in our leaders. Somehow, I hope that the people in the position of politics can gain back that trust, that we do need people to look up to, that we do look up to people that we go, I trust the information you're giving me, that it's best for me and the most amount of people. I think we have a challenge, you know, right now, when we talk about, oh, America, land of the free, that's, hang on, let's table that for a second. That's dessert. Let's go back to the meal. We need to question right now, do we really want to be the United States of America? And I don't mean that in a condescending way. I don't mean that in a challenging way. I mean, it's an honest question that we need to ask ourselves, because we're not necessarily acting like it. So is there do we want to have a collective responsibility, a social contract with each other as Americans? It's a question we have to answer, because right now we're not acting that way. And I think we're all drinking the Kool-Aid. I think we're much closer.
What's the Kool-Aid? Is the Kool-Aid that we're so divided? And I ask this because I loved how you talked about how somehow coming to the middle is this radical, crazy thing, or finding common ground is like sacrilege to your core beliefs. It almost reminded me in your book when you talk about this concept of outlaw logic.
Right.
That's something that seems so sound, and a decade ago would have felt sort of emblematic of this country, right? The ability to find common ground now feels antithetical to where we are as a country.
Oh yeah. And I think that's part of the Kool-Aid. Meaning, and if you drink enough of the Kool-Aid, your teeth rot and they fall out. But I do believe that the center is the majority. I would argue that it's probably in the 80 percentile. And the center and the common sense and the common denominator of values are sailing the ship down the middle, and we're trying to get mutinized by the pirates on the far right and the far left, and we're giving them a lot more credit than they actually deserve. But they have the voice box. Again, we talked about rubbernecking earlier and how we like to see health and disease. They have the voice box. They have the megaphone. They sound loud. They sound large. They don't have the numbers. And if the center, we just look around and go, hey, we've actually got the majority here. Our common sense has the majority here. Our ability to compromise, our ability to listen to each other has the majority. Once we notice that and start acting on it, then I think we pull the veil off our face. Right now, I just think we're being sold that bill of goods, that we are that divided. And if you're sold that bill of goods, even though it may not factually be true, it can become true. So I'm not saying it can't happen, but I think right now it's almost a perverse marketing campaign that's being sold us, and we're gonna have to talk about sacrifice again. Individually, my goal is, can we individually realize the capacity we have, the larger capacity we have that we don't give our damn selves credit for? Because anybody can make a policy. We can legislate and put it across the board and make the law, but it doesn't happen unless we click it right here in this frontier right here. And that's on you and me. And how many of us can look in the mirror and go, I'm putting myself on the line. Don't have to change the world. We'll try to be a little bit better here today. But a simple thing. Better father, better friend, a more fair boss. Whatever that little thing is, want to do. That's where it happens. That's where a collective change happens right there. Now, that takes us being the policemen of our own council. That takes us being the legislators of our own room. That's hard, because we know what we do when we go back home, we're in the dark. We think no one's watching. We can get away with it. No, it's what do we do in the dark, and how do we feel about it in the dark? What do we do when we're alone, no one else is watching? That's a place that I think is really fertile ground. If we can trigger that and help people understand that actually is selfish. You're gonna win. You're gonna get paid. Just trust that you'll delayed gratification, that you will get more ROI by trying to be a little bit better, a little more true, a little more fair today. And that's what we just don't trust, because we want it now. We want immediate gratification right now. I'll deal with the consequences tomorrow. Moira, don't worry. I'll deal with it. Well, don't make it so hard on yourself. We got to make it. It's give ourselves a little more credit.
I have a belief in life: pay now, pay later. Right? And eventually, you're going to pay the price, and you might as well sort of invest the time and energy now.
Invest in yourself. Invest in each other. I mean, 19 of 21 successful civilizations didn't die from the outside. They committed suicide. They imploded. That's not my quote. That's fact. And a lot of historians have talked about this. And you could look at, if dynasties have gone on for an average of 200 years, we're at 245. America. little bit longer than most, but look at what's happening. If we don't, that's what I fear, is some version of a civil war that we're already teasing right now, and an implosion. So we don't need to do that. we don't need to do that. We're better than that.
But it's certainly this really critical and inflection point in terms of
Yes, it is.
the road, the path that we're going to take forward. I want to wrap up our conversation with a quick speed round, Matthew. A couple of quick insights of the show is the takeaway. So really quickly, I want to go through a couple of questions to get a few more of your quick insights and leadership thoughts. So it'll take just one or 2 minutes. So are you up for it?
I'm up for it.
Okay. You're a very productive person. Obviously, you get a lot done in your day. Is there one thing you do each morning that sets you up for a successful day?
Give myself that first hour of wake up. First of all, check in with myself before I roll off the mattress. What's that?
If you were to describe who you are, the core of your DNA in one word, what would that be?
Spirit.
What's on your perennial to-do list that just never gets done?
Go through the next box of these journals and diaries I've been keeping for 37 years. I carry them with me everywhere, and I dare myself to look into them. And I did with the book, but I've got 80% more that I haven't gotten to.
Wow. Well, that is at least a treasure trove. Mine is like much more mundane than that, but far more boring. What's the biggest misperception people have about you?
Lack of intentionality. I think most people think I just kind of roll out of bed and go, hey, press record. What are we doing? I'm a big preparer. I love to prepare.
Is there a quote or mantra that you live by?
Just keep living. What else is there to do?
One rule or phrase that you wish could be banished from our vernacular?
Oh, unbelievable. Stupidest word in the dictionary. Silly. Silly word. It just happened. Good or bad, it's believable. Believe it.
When you're feeling burnt out or don't have that creative energy, is there one thing that you do that helps you get unstuck or find that energy again?
Well, I'm working on now taking a nap. It can press reset.
Winston Churchill was a big napper. Some of the greatest leaders were the biggest nappers.
I get it.
Slowing down to speed up.
Yep. When we're running on reserve, and I'm very good at running on reserve, but boy, if I can go click out even for 30 minutes, I can come back and go, now I see clearly. I'm glad I didn't open my mouth and answer that question 30 minutes ago because the answer was going to be clumsy. Now I'm ready for it. What's
the best piece of advice you've received on whether you should run for political office or how you should think about that decision?
I think, as I said earlier, and the changing of a word or definition, I can completely click and change my perspective on things. Thinking of that job or that responsibility as a statesman and not a politician just rearranges and makes me engage with the idea and try to see, well, how would you navigate? How would that work? Because there's a game with politics, but politics also should be a very serious business, and I'm more interested in the business of serving people than the game of how it's played, and the game that's being played right now, which is do whatever you can to preserve your party. Well, that already locks out 50%, so that doesn't seem to be the way.
Well, and last question, the speed round. I don't know if you'll answer at this point, but Democrat, Republican, or Independent?
Not answering that yet.
You get the pass on that one. That's what I figured. So, Matthew, the last question I ask every guest on the show is called The Takeaway. If people were to look at your life story, your book, really, I loved it. Remarkable lessons and insights. But what's the moral of the story that you want them to take away? Is there one lesson that you think, especially at this moment in time, that you can offer people given your own experiences as they think about navigating their own life forward?
There's many. Let me bring up one though. And I think especially in this time, in whatever version we come out of the COVID times, in whatever version that we may be saying, hey, this is a pandemic life we live in from now on, whatever that is, we've all gone through, it's at least been a yellow light for everybody the last year and a half. Red light for many. There's been death, there's been loss of all kinds of things. Understanding that we did have a collective experience, mostly a negative one, but we had a collective experience, more than a national experience, a worldwide species experience. Understanding that what is you and I have a new similarity that we didn't have before, even though we just met today. And anyone out there, with anybody you run into, they were affected. Something happened. Their floor was moved. Just understanding that it's not just us. Call that empathy, call it whatever. We can get through and solve problems so much better. I found when we have someone else, where we realize in the human experience that someone else is going, hey, me too. Hey, me too. Then we'll go, oh, you too? Oh, okay. Now, okay, let's collect. There's some amnesty that has to be in our hearts coming out of this, but also match the amnesty with let's pull up the bootstraps. We got to build our way out of this time. But everybody's got to toe the line, and everybody's been through some real setbacks over the last year and a half. To know that collectively, because a lot of things that happen in our life, we go, well, no, that just happened to me and my family. No one else really does know that. Oh, that just happened in my city or my community or my state or nation. No, this was worldwide. What did we learn from it? How did we get better? Did we rearrange our value priorities in a way? Because everyone thought about it, whether they were conscious of it or not. Every one of us thought about it because we were forced to. We were like forced into a sort of pseudo monasticism. Everybody was, and we didn't all enjoy the company, did we?
Every day. Definitely not every moment of every day.
So that what I would say is understand we've all been through something collective here, and let's come out of this and go, oh, okay, you too? Yeah, me too. So let's do this.
Well, I love it because a collective experience means that you can at least then find hopefully the common ground to collectively work toward a better place.
Yeah.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much for your insights. Again, the book Greenlights, it was such a fantastic read, so many insights shared, and I'm really excited to see what's ahead.
Me too. I am too. I promise you, I am excited. And I'm really, as I've said, I'm really measuring where can I be most useful to me, my family, to the most amount of people. And I'm going through a process now of that mix I talked about very early on. I have some goals, things that I'm going to want to achieve, but I'm also sitting back trying to really take care and making sure I'm nurturing the non-negotiables in my life. Family, children, having a little time straight with them without certain work and accomplishments I have to do right now. So I'm excited too. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And thanks for everyone for watching. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Just keep living.